So b'shus the Mora de Asra, Rav Webster, and the Rav Naiman, and the Rosh Koilel. It's a pleasure to be here this morning with you, and I'm very moved to see such a full shul Sunday in the morning. So I came in Friday for an unbelievable day of Arbotzes Torah. Friday morning, my first stop was the Yeshiva Ktan in Long Island. We spent an amazing Shabbos with a lot of Divrei Torah in Englewood, and I'm happy to start this day with Divrei Chizuk and Divrei Torah for the community right here in Monsey. So this week's Parshas Truma. Va'osu li migdosh v'shulchanti b'soichon. And the Gemara in Megillah Daf Chof says, Lacher chor mabayis. Chazal mefarash haposek in Novi Yecheskel ve'ehelem lemigdosh mad b'kol hamokom asher yevayu shamo. Elu bote knesias ubote midrashas shebebavel. But every Jewish home, not only shuls and not only bote knesios and yeshivas and koilalim, every Jewish home could be a migdosh ma'at. In Soita Daf Yud Zayin we learn, Ish ve'isho shezachu, Shechina shruya beinehem, and everywhere the Shechina dwells is a migdosh ma'at. And many times I explained how does one guarantee a Shos Shechina in his home? Obviously, we need to learn from the Beis HaMikdash, from the Beis HaMikdash HaGodol. The entirety of Avodas HaMikdash is centered around three fundamental kelim. Three fundamental klei Mikdash, and all the others were just supplementary. Avodas HaMikdash is menorah, mizbachos, shulchan. The menorah every day. Machlokes Rambam in Rashba maybe twice a day. Atovas haneres v'hadlakosa. The mizbachos, Tomei shel shachar, Tomei shel beinu arbayim, and ktores, boiker ve'erev, and the shulchan. Shabbos b'Shabbatoi lechem aponim. That is the routine of Avodas HaMikdash and the entirety of Avodas HaMikdash. Shloishes ela keneged ma. It is clear that they coincide with al shloishet dvorim olam oimed, al ha-Torah, al ha-avodah, va'al gemilas chosodim. And every child, we have some young B'nai Torah here, I think they all could figure out that menorah is Torah, ki ner mitzvah v'Torah oyom. And the mizbachos are avodas hatfilo. Tfilas keneged karbonos tiklum. In Brochas Chavav, we learned that the three tfilas b'kol yom are keneged the tmidim and evarim epidorim, and that is why tfilas are rishus. And the ktores, posek and tehillim, tikoin tfilosi ktores lefonecho masas kape minchas orev. And other opportunities I showed that it's machlokes Bavli and Yerushalmi, Tikkun, Tfilosi, Ktores, Lefonecho, Masas Kape, Minchas Orav, whether that means Tfilas Mincha or Tfilas Arvis. So the Mizbachos are both associated with Avodah. And the Shulchan, goes without saying, is a remez for Gemilas Chasodim, both in Zvochem and Chagiga Daf Chof Zayin. The Gemara says, Shulchanoi Shel Odam Mechaper, Kim Mizbeach, and Rashi and Tosfos explain that the kapara of the Shulchan is based on Achnos HaSorchem and Gemilas Chasodim. So obviously, a Migdash Ma'at needs to be established on the Tfus, and the dogma of the Beis HaMikdash. And every Jewish home that is dedicated to Torah, to Avodah, to Chesed, is a Migdash Ma'at. Rashi brings, when Yitzchak marries Rivka Yavoy Ohelo, so Rashi brings, as long as Sarah Emenu lived, there were three nisim in Ohel Sarah. Ner doilek brocha mitzuye bepas onan koshur al ha-ohel, and those were lost when Sarah passed away, and they were restored when Yitzchak brings Rivka into the Ohel. And I think these three are the same. And ner doilak keneged ha-menorah brocha mitzuye bepas. That's the shulchan lechem aponim onan kosher ala oil ki ba'onan ero el hakapoides, and that is Mizbach HaKtairis. So, Botei HaAvois were Migdashei Ma'at. There's an amazing Rashi in Shabbos Daf Nun Hey. Ad shaloi nivna oyal moed, hoiso hashchina shruya ba'ohalei tzadikim. So the Shechina is not something we were zoicha only by Komes HaMishkan. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sora, Rivka, Rochaleah, they were zoicha to Shechina. And Rashi writes, Ad shaloi nivna oyal moed, hoiso hashchina shruya ba'ohalei tzadikim. So obviously, those are the three ingredients. Those are the three basic components when one wants to bring Shechina into his home. However, in the Beis HaMikdash, there was a basic role for Leviim as well. And there could be no Beis HaMikdash without Leviim. So what do we learn from Avodas HaLeviim? And who are the Leviim in our homes? And this is a very important message. When I met some of the unbelievable members of this community by breakfast, one of the questions I was asked about chinuch in our times, in these difficult times with so many challenges and so many nisyonos. So what do we learn from Avodas HaLeviim? The Leviim had two basic functions in the Beis HaMikdash: Shoyarim and Mishoyarim. The Leviim were the gate watchers, the gatekeepers. B'chof alaf mekoimes haleviim mishamrim. And they were shoimrim every entrance to the Beis HaMikdash. And that is one tafkid of the Leviim. Shoyarim. And the other is mishoyarim. Every Jewish home needs shoyarim and mishoyarim. We need to build walls and moats around our homes to try to safeguard our children, to prevent them from this horrific exposure of our day and age, which sometimes could be sleifes neshama v'guf kayim. So, yes, we need shayarim. And we need to watch and see who comes in, who stays out, and even more important, what comes in and what stays out. And that is essential. But walls and moats historically never proved very, very efficient in keeping enemies from coming in or keeping inmates from going out. Walls could be dug under, walls could be scaled, walls could be breached. And if we really want to hopefully keep our kids at home, and that's where the Mishoyarim are important. So the Leviim were the Shoyarim. They were the gatekeepers. They were the ones to watch over the entrances in and out of the Beis HaMikdash. But they are the ones that brought Simcha into Avodas HaMikdash. They brought the song of Avodas HaKodesh. They were the ones that made Avodas HaMikdash a happy Avodah. Machlokes in Gemara, Ikar shira b'peh, Ikar shira b'kli. But the Leviim were the ones responsible to bring Simcha into Avodas HaMikdash. And it is only if we will share with our children Simchas HaTorah and Simchas HaMitzvah that we could really hope. It is only if they will be happy inside that they won't look for a way to get out. So these are the two yesodas that we learn from Avodas HaMikdash, this Shoyarim. Do your best. It's a difficult time, and not always is it biyodenu, but do your best to save your children from exposure. And this is one of the greatest challenges of our time. But that is not enough. You need the Mishoyarim. You need the Simcha of a Jewish home. And I say all the time, the home of a Ben Torah should be the happiest home in the world. Spend time with your children. So many times I spoke in public about the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. What is the gather? How much time a day does a person need to learn Torah? Eile devorim she'ein lehem shiur. Every day in the morning, before we start davening, we quote the first Mishnah Masechet Peah. One of those mitzvahs she'elem shir is Talmud Torah. And the Gon in Shnei Saliur writes, Talmud Torah in shir lo lamala v'lo lamato. As much as you learn, it's never enough. And as little as you learn, it is always a lot. Ve'ein lem shir lo lamato v'lo lamala. So what is the shir of Talmud Torah? Beautiful story I've told 1,000 times. And B'siyata D'Shmaya, I hope to tell it many, many more times in the future. When Rav Henkin was the Gadol of America before Rav Moshe's brilliant gadlus, became obvious to the whole world. So Rav Henkin was Maspid the Chazon Ish. And at the Hesped, he said, I met the Chazon Ish first time in a little Russian town called Stovsy. We both were young, and I came to visit the Rav, and the Rav was Rav Sorotskin, not one of the famous Sorotskins. And as I walked into the Rav's home, the Chazon Ish walked out, and I didn't know him, and I asked him, who are you? And he said, my father is the Rav of Kosovo. What do? We run a shop. He said, we run a shop. The Chazon Ish's wife worked in a shop, and that was their panosa. Do you learn? Wenn ich hab Zeit, lerne ich. When I have time, I learn. And obviously, he had a lot of time. It's quite obvious. So I asked him, ihr lernt? Wenn ich hab Zeit, lerne ich. When I have time, I learn. What are you doing by the Rav? The Rav called. When a Rav calls, you come. That's the end of the conversation. He wasn't a great schmoozer, the Chazon Ish. He wasn't very engaging. And what a beautiful conversation. And Rav Henkin says, I walked into the Rav's office in his room, and he asked him, who is this younger man that just left? And he said, you didn't hear of Rabbi Avram Yeshaya? He's going to be the Gadol Ador in a few years. And why did he come to see the Rav? And the Rav told me, I need to leave town for a medical procedure. I'm going to be away a few weeks. And I asked him to step in and deal with all the shilas of the town. But when he asked the Chazon Ish, what are you doing here? He said, the Rav calls. When a Rav calls, you come. So I think when the Chazon Ish gave the most clear Hagdorah of mitzvahs Talmud Torah, Wenn ich hab Zeit, lerne ich. And that's all HaKadosh Baruch Hu demands. Learn when you have time. Having time is a relative concept. And only the Boichin Kaloyas V'Leiv, HaKadosh Baruch Hu alone, could judge each and every person based on the difficulty is his life, his parnosa, his tunas and nefesh. We have kids, and we know not all of them could sit and learn 18 hours a day. Our mitzvah is learn when you have time. But my eitzah to all of you, when you will be asked this same question by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ihr hat gelernt, did you learn? Don't dare to answer what the Chazon Ish said. Don't dare to say, when I had time, I learned. Don't. There's a video clip up there of every day, every moment of your life. And if you're going to say, when I had time, I learned, the Kodesh Baruch Hu will say, really? Let's see. And that's going to be very, very embarrassing. So if you ask that question, don't dare to answer the Chazon Ish's answer. The Chazon Ish could say, Wenn ich hab Zeit, lerne ich. When I have time, I learn. Why do I tell this story? Because how do we define when one has time? Kol mitzvah she'i efshar lasois al yedei acherim, doichet Talmud Torah. That's a Gemara Moed Katan Daf Tes, and many other sources in Shas. Regarding Kriya Shema Shabbos Yud Aleph, regarding Mikra Megillah, Daf Daled Mesechet Megillah. But the basic rule is in Moed Katan Daf Tes, Kol mitzvah she'i efshar lasois al yedei acherim, doichet Talmud Torah. However, there are things that decent people, B'nai Torah, Yerei Shamayim, there are some things that decent people do, even though they cannot be defined as a mitzvah she'i efshar lasois al yedei acherim. Fathers need to learn Torah with their children. That's a mitzvah, I say. But fathers sometimes need to play with their children as well. And we know that because we are all fathers. Well, I'm a Zaidi, I'm an Elta Zaidi already, but yes, sometimes you need to play with your children and not only teach them Torah. And when you come home from Kollel after say the Beis or say the Gimel, it is legitimate to ask your wife, how was your day? and talk to her and tell her about how was your day. So years ago, the first Yahrzeit of my late wife, we had a big kenes in Yerushalayim, and I spoke to, there was a big crowd there, and I spoke be'ikar about the Asmodas HaTorah. And I said, you know, we are used to hearing from our Gedolim and Rosh Hashivas. There never was such a great generation as our generation. This is a mantra we hear all the time. There were never as many B'nai Torah. There were never in history did we learn as much Torah as we do today. And sometimes it gets into our heads and we think we are really that great. If we would be that great, why is Mashiach not here? So obviously, we're not as great as we think sometimes, and I think everyone could learn more than he's learning. You could do more, daven better, learn more, do more chesed. We all could be far better than we are. And a few days later, a person comes to me with a sheet of paper, and he writes his Seder Hayom from when he gets up 6:30 in the morning till he goes to sleep 11 o'clock by night, and he asks me, "Dear Rav, I heard your drosha. I really want to learn more. Could you go over my Seder Yom and tell me where could I push in another few minutes of learning Torah after hearing the Rav's drosha?" So I look over that piece of paper, and he writes, "I come home 7 o'clock from the kollel, and I spend time with my wife till 7:30, and I said, this is sacred. I'm not going to touch this one. This needs to stay intact. Let's go over other parts of your Seder Yom. How long does breakfast take? How long does dinner take?" And we found a few minutes. We found a few minutes to add on to Talmud Torah. So what I mean to say is there are things that are legitimate, and they are ra'ui, and is what decent people, fathers and husbands, should be engaged in. Hard to define as a mitzvahs asay shel Torah, but that patters from Talmud Torah. When you have time, you need to learn. But it is important that we be normal human beings, look after our kids, see whether they're happy, spend time with them, take them from a tiyul from time to time. It is important that kids and children in the home of a Ben Torah be happy children. And that is the greatest gula to chinuch l'Torah v'le'yirah shamayim. They shouldn't go astray. So many years ago in my shul, sometimes in the middle of davening, I just turn around. You know, Litvish usually the Rav davens with his face to the Olam, and by Hasidim, we all face the wall as I do in my shul. But sometimes I do turn around, just looking at the tzibur, how they daven, and I see a younger man with his little boy standing next to him, and every few minutes he looks at his son and he gives him a patch, and he tells him to listen to the Shliach Tzibur. And I was so disturbed. After davening, I called him over and I said, if your child will ever feel a tam and tefillah, it'll be a nez golui. Because this little boy will associate coming to shul as a very unpleasant experience, and you're doing tremendous harm to this boy's future. I mean, he's a kid. What do you expect him? He's not a gadol b'Yisrael, and you are making him to hate shul, and this is a very unpleasant experience. So simcha is the most important ingredient in chinuch. Simcha shel Torah, simcha shel mitzvah. And I encourage people, learn at home. It's important to learn in shul, go to shiurim, but learn at home. And when you come home from a daf yomi, share with your wife some ideas, some simcha Torah. Share with your children, spend time with your children. Because in our day and age, with all the nisyonis, simchas Torah, simchas mitzvah, simchas chayim is so important. So the two yesodis we learn from Avodas Halavim is the shoyarim and the mishoyarim. From the koyanim, we learn the fundamentals. Torah, avodah, and gemilas chasodim. Shloisha dvorim shaleim oimed oimed. And that is menorah, mizbeach, and shulchan. What we learn from the Leviim is watch over the gates. And that is not enough. Not enough. As much resources you invest in gatekeeping, that will never guarantee your hatzlacha. You need the mishoyarim, simchas hachaim and simchas Torah. So every day in the morning we say 3 birchos HaTorah. And these 3 brachas are of a different nature, each of one. So next time around, maybe I'll give you a shir in Birchos HaTorah, because I have gewaldige chedushim in Birchos HaTorah. What is the essence of Birchos HaTorah? But it's obvious. Bracha number 1 is Birchos HaMitzvah. Asher kiddushonu b'mitzvoisa v'tzivonu. And that is the basic nusach, the formula of Birchos HaMitzvah. Ma'ule shebebrachas, the most important bracha shebacha banu, is Birchos HaShevach. How do we define the middle bracha? V'harevno. The Levush writes, Birchos HaNehenin, which is interesting. Birchos HaNehenin is only an anos haguf. Achile v'shtia, reach, somewhat, bracha rishayna without a bracha achroina. And Rashi writes in Niddah Daf Nun Aleph, why is there no bracha achroina and reach? Because it's not such an important and tangible hanoah. But on Ruchnius, there is no Birchos HaNehenin. I think the middle bracha is defined as Birchos HaTfilah. So not next time around, maybe 2 times around, I'll give you a shir on Gidrei HaBrochas, and there are 6 different Gedorim in Brochas. The world only knows about 5, and there are 6. But one of the Gedorim is Birchos HaTfilah. The Abu Darham says this. What is Birchos HaTfilah? These are brachas that besides giving Shevach and Hallel, we also ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we plead with him to give us. Brachas and Tzoyos B'Tfilas HaAmida are Birchos HaTfilah. And in each of them, we plead with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He should be Choinen Das, and Mestatza B'Tshuva, and give us Kaporim, but there are additional Birchos HaTfilah. L'moshel, Tfilas HaDerech, when we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to watch over us. The middle bracha of Birchos HaTorah is Birchos HaTfilah. And in this bracha we have 2 different bakoshas, which is uncommon. Usually Birchos HaTfilah, each bracha has 1 bakosha. And in this bracha we ask first V'harevno, and then an additional bakosha, v'nihiyah anachnu v'tzetzuenu. And I say, because these 2 are not 2 different bakoshas. They are 2 sides of the same coin. It is only if v'harevno Hashem Elokeinu is divrei teroschu befinu that we could truly expect and hope v'nihiyah anachnu v'tzetzuenu v'tzetzoi tzetzuenu kulonu yoidei shemecho v'lomdes erusecho l'shma. The only guarantee is Arevus HaTorah and Simchas HaTorah and Simchas HaMitzvah, and only then could we really hope and expect the Siyata Dishmaya v'niyah anachnu v'tzetzoenu. So, I'm very short in time. We're here just for a short time, and I'm expected to give some shiur in the kollel, and then we're flying out to Toronto this afternoon. So it was a pleasure to share some divrei chizuk and divrei Torah with this community. And after all I've said, we need to daven and ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for siyata d'shmaya and for nachas from our children. And my bracha to all of you is v'nihiyah anachnu v'tzetzuenu v'tzetzoi tzetzuenu kulonu yodei shemecho v'lomdes erusecho l'shma. We shall have nachas from our children. Nothing is more precious than passing on Torah and the Messiah to the next generation, as our forefathers have been doing since Ma'amad Har Sinai. We should all have nachas, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help us. We should be zoicha lahagdil Torah ulahadira. And there's a terrible war going on in Eretz Yisrael, and to our terrible dismay, soldiers are dying every day. Many of them, B'nai Torah, Talmidei Chachamim, Lomdei Torah, Shashem Yerachem. So the Tfilis and the Torah of Jews in the entire world should be Ma'orer Rachamei Shamayim, and this war should be over, and we should be Zoicha to B'Seiris Toivos, and V'nasati Shalom Ba'oretz V'shachaftem V'ein Machrid. We should be able to be Mamshech Lahagdil Torah or Ladira, and we should be Zoicha B'Korov to to a Yeshua Seilomim and be as Koil Tzedek, and this Beis Medrash should grow and prosper, the Beis Medrash and the Koilel, and we should only share B'Seidas Toivus, and we should be Zoichet Lirois Pnei Moshiach Tzedkeinu B'mheiro V'yomeinu Amen.